Well, Commonwealth, State and Territory Community Service Ministers met at Parliament House yesterday to discuss a solution to the growing number of children in out-of-home care. According to the most recent Child Protection Australia report, there are almost 50,000 children in the out-of-home care system.
The Federal Assistant Minister for Children and Families, Dr David Gillespie, says he wants to change the focus so that permanent guardianship or adoption is considered sooner rather than as a last resort. Renée Carter is the CEO of Adopt Change, and she joins us now in the studio. Thank you for joining us, Renée. Now, should that focus be changed? So at the moment, it's looking like that permanency or adoption is a last resort. Obviously, efforts are made with the biological family. Should it be moved to more of a front-end consideration?
Look, always the best interests of the child need to come first, and wherever possible there needs to be great efforts to keep families together. So wherever that can be done safely and in a timely manner. What the real concern is that there are a large number of children that are not able to return home, and that has been proven for a number of years, and they're bouncing through the system. There needs to be much more focus on what a permanent outcome for them could be that will give them stability and nurture and safety.
So determining whether a child stays with the family or is adopted into another family and finds a more permanent home, is that not happening quick enough at the moment?
Look, it varies in state to state, and I think we can see from the numbers that it's not happening fast enough. So there may even be a court order that says that the child won't be able to return home because that's already been deemed impossible, and in which case then a new permanent option is not happening quick enough for those children.
So in those cases, you think it's quite obvious that adoption measures or permanency measure should be established if it's already been deemed that they're not going to go back to their biological family.
Yes, absolutely. And instead of being in limbo and moving 10 times or 20 times, they do need an option. So whether that's adoption in the appropriate cases or guardianship with a family member, those options need to be explored much sooner.
So when in the case where children are moved from home to home, what sort of impact does that have on a child?
Well, we just need to look at the statistics for children coming through out-of-home care. Over a third of them, from some of the research we've looked at, over a third will become homeless in their first year after leaving care at 18. Much higher incidences of interactions with the justice system, lower education, poorer mental health. The outcomes aren't great, and that's that instability and not having that belonging and ability to just really grow up well and nurtured.
Why can't they stay longer? Why does it have to be adoption? Can a foster family not have them for in a permanent sort of sense? Why do they move around?
Yes, and there are a large number of foster families that do have a child in effect very similar to adoption with them long term, but when it's not adoption, it's not a legal arrangement, so there may be a decision by an agency to move a child, or there may be a breakdown with the foster placement, so not every foster placement is meant to be long-term either. So there's a huge raft of reasons, and also children coming into the system often have experienced complex trauma already, so they do need therapeutic care and a very stable environment, and knowing that this is it, this is where they are staying.
Is that one of the problems in finding a system that works, is that every case is different and every case is incredibly complex?
It is, and to further complicate it, each state has their own legislation and a different approach to permanency, and so that's where really this national look at how do we simplify this and make this more common ground.
Is the age of a child a big factor in these decisions?
Look, there's a whole range of ages really of children coming into care. So I guess the sooner that you can provide a child with permanency, if a young child's coming into care, then really they need that stability very soon.
We're talking about the children who are in need, but are there enough families who are wanting to take on kids, whether it's through fostering or adopting? Is there enough? Are there enough families to supply?
Look, there's a dire shortage of foster carers across Australia. It's really something that we need people to step up and be available for children when they can't be at home. So we need carers that will work with families or with children that will be returning home, so to provide them with that nurture in the short term, but we also need people that are stepping up and able to provide long-term permanent care, some of those carers don't step forward because they know that it's quite difficult to actually be able to provide a home through adoption, for example. And so I think we'll see more people stepping up if we make that a little easier to do.
Can you tell us about adoption in this day and age? It's quite different to in earlier days when people might have found out on their 18th birthday that they were adopted and never even knew. Nowadays it's a very open process, isn't it?
That's right. We've learned a lot from past practices which did a lot of damage, and so any closed and forced adoptions really are still having a ricochet effect now in the community, and that's where we're hearing from people saying, when they're talking about the damage of adoption, that is very much what they're talking about. So really now we practice open adoption, which means that there's still a contact with family. So a child still has very strong connections with their family of origin. How do we maintain those? And foster families and adoptive families coming into the system understand that there is that relationship there that needs to be nurtured as well.
Absolutely. All right, Renee, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.